Pro-life groups are disturbed by remarks from a Trump administration official. Dr. Francis Collins is the director of the National Institutes of Health. He says fetal tissue research will continue despite growing concerns. White House correspondent Mark Irons reports. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Wyatt. Those concerns involve taxpayer funding of scientific research that uses the body parts of aborted babies. A letter from national pro-life leaders will arrive here at the White House this week condemning the practice. Now, separately, some pro-lifers are calling on President Trump to fire Director Collins. Dr. Francis Collins was appointed to run the National Institutes of Health by President Obama in 2009. President Trump made the decision last summer to keep Collins in that role. Now, some say it's time for a change.
We believe Dr. Collins should be removed from his post there at NIH.
Kristen Hawkins with the national group Students for Life is slamming Collins for his support of using aborted fetal tissue in scientific research. Last week, Director Collins said there is strong evidence that scientific benefits come from fetal tissue research, which can be done with an ethical framework. But Collins doesn't make the distinction between what is ethical and unethical. Hawkins believes his comments don't align with President Trump's pro-life convictions.
We're expecting the president to act. He is a pro-life president. He's promised us a pro-life administration. And look, personnel is policy.
The NIH is an agency within the Department of Health and Human Services. In September, HHS announced an internal review of policies and procedures concerning the use of fetal tissue in research. Director Collins calls the department's plan to spend $20 million on research alternatives highly justified, but says fetal tissue research will continue to be a mainstay.
We've long expressed opposition to the use of aborted fetal tissue in research.
Greg Schleppenbach with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says aborted babies are used as commodities, potentially fueling the abortion business. He says there are plenty of alternatives.
We're not opposed to fetal tissue research per se. We're not opposed to stem cell research per se. We're opposed to fetal tissue research that uses the body parts of aborted babies. You can obtain fetal tissue from miscarriages and stillbirths and other kinds of sources that are not unethical.
The Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services says as its review of fetal tissue research continues, nothing Dr. Collins has said should be seen as a prejudgment of the outcome of the review. Wyatt?
White House correspondent Mark Irons reporting. Thanks, Mark.